Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boys back, Brian and Gavin, Bleacher Boys, episode 2. We are going through the first 48 of the NFL free agency. We're going to talk some team transactions between free agent moves, big signings, and a little AFC, NFC breakdown. We're going to give some grades on how the teams are doing so far in the offseason moves between the free agent moves, their signings, and even some teams that have gotten new coaches. So, Gavin, like, dude, like the first 48 yesterday and today have been pretty nuts so far. Just give me your overall thoughts before we even kind of dive into this.
Yeah, man, it's been kind of nuts. You're seeing a lot of people jumping on. I would just say jumping on the train early, trying to sign people early so that price tag doesn't go up. Do I think it's one of the best free agent markets that we've had? No, I don't. But I think it's really interesting to see a lot of these teams really kind of already having a foothold of what they want to try to get done and attacking that, like having a plan and attacking that. So man, yeah, it's been insane, man. Being at work and trying to focus on what I'm trying to do, and I just feel like my phone's just constantly going off. And today I was in the vehicle all day, and I'm trying to read my map and dude, it was nuts. But yeah, man, I'm ready to get into this, kind of cover the first 48. So let's get rocking.
All right, so man, I really think there is something to when athletes, especially, but I think it just I got transition to I think everyday life. I think there's just something when a man, an athlete, when he kind of quiets his life, he really starts to understand who he is, and then um, in a lot of guys' case, when they find their life partner and they start establishing themselves, how you can just see how when all those stars really start to align, their life just starting to take off.
Hmm.
I say that to say this first guy, Josh Allen. I mean, if you look at just his kind of his last, I think 6 weeks or 8 weeks or so, he's getting engaged to Haley Steinfeld. He's winning his first MVP, going to another AFC Championship game. I think it's going to be a lot of pressure for him now that he's finally gotten that MVP to break through to the Super Bowl. And me being a Chiefs fan, I hear from the Bills fans all the time. But they really believe in this guy, and they should. And I
Yeah.
think they money talks. So I don't think there's an amount that is legal that they can give to Josh Allen for what he has done for that franchise and how the last 2 seasons, even with him losing weapons and some people counting them out that they didn't think they were going to win that division. Aaron Rodgers coming in and kind of disrupting the whole thing. They just took off, and I don't see that train really stopping anytime soon for them. Maybe
Hmm.
with the Patriots and Vrabel in a couple of years, but Josh Allen being awarded 330, I think 250 guaranteed over the next 5 years is a big deal. What say you?
Yeah, man, I agree. I was actually just pulling it up to make sure we had our numbers right. You bring up a great point, man. The guy, it just seems like he just can't lose right now. It just seems like he's just winning at life.
Unless it's Patrick
And
Mahomes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, the Chiefs fan says that. But man, I'm stoked for him. I've always, kind of rooted for Josh Allen. I won't say like I'm a homer or anything like that. I think the guy's just one of those salts of the earth guys, man. He just seems like a genuine dude. I don't know if you saw it, the ESPN thing that they did
Yeah.
where he goes out to the children's hospital, man, and they made a video for him. Eh, Stuff like that. And I know these guys are in the spotlight all the time, but you don't see everybody doing that, is what
Yeah.
I'm getting at. And for that guy, as busy as he is, to take the time out and make an impact on those kids' lives, man, you just got to root for a guy like that. And you got to be happy when that guy just seems like he's just on a winning streak.
For sure. And I may sound a lot like Colin Cowherd in saying this, but I really like my quarterbacks to be quarterbacking.
Yeah.
I want them to be leaders. I don't want any drama off the field.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
got to be able to command the huddle. When they step into the huddle and they start ripping off that cadence of a play, everybody in that huddle has to believe that guy is leading them to the promised land. And
Absolutely.
Josh is a hat forwards kind of guy. You've not heard 1 ounce since he stepped in the NFL. And I think the guys like him, Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Lamar, as polarizing as a guy Lamar Jackson can be, there's not anything off the field. His biggest criticism is that he can't beat the Chiefs, and he had a couple years where he had an injury bug at the end of the year. Other
Yeah.
than that, that guy has kept the Ravens more than relevant, but a championship worthy team, and that's kind of what you would hope to get out of a franchise quarterback.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think we've talked about this before. I think the league's in a really good place right now with the quarterbacks that they have in it, and I'm interested to see it continue and progress.
All right, brother. So next topic at hand: new faces and new places. Sam
Yeah.
Darnold to the Seahawks. Geno Smith to the Raiders, DK Metcalf to the Steelers, DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens, Daniel Jones to the Colts, and Joey Bosa just breaking to the Bills. Give me your
Yeah.
thoughts on those. What stands out to you? What do you think is going to be, the hottest out of these moves, or have the biggest impact on next year's NFL season?
Yeah, no, man. I think the biggest thing that kind of stands out is one, the Sam Darnold. It seems like the Seahawks are kind of, I don't want to say like rebuilding. I don't think rebuilding is the right word, but it seems like they're kind of parting ways, and it seems like maybe a mini rebuild. Um, I'm on the Sam Darnold train, man. I think that he can do something there. I just think they have more pieces to add. I don't think that it's just going to be him, Jackson Smith, and Jigba and Charbonnet. Like I don't think that's going to take them back to where they were with Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson and that team. So really interested to see that. The next one that you brought up, man, is Geno to the Raiders. Pete Carroll, there's some familiarity there. New coach, new coach with the Raiders, but him and Geno have a relationship, have some rapport. So that's going to be interesting. Also going to be interesting, kind of going back on the last episode with the draft. If the Raiders are in a position and somebody's there for them, what do they do? Do they still take that guy that they want, or are they saying, "Hey, Geno's our guy," or do they go for the blueprint of the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers? That's the best one that we can use. Do they try to go for that blueprint of, "Hey, let's give this guy a year, what have you, and now we're going to roll him out." So really interested with that, man. DeAndre Hopkins, that is a interesting one to me. It just seems like the guy just wants to get a ring. It's like he wants to get a ring. And it's really interesting, and I think a lot of people forget this. Deontay Johnson last year went to the Ravens and didn't do anything for them. I'm not saying that's going to be a DeAndre Hopkins situation, but it's just really interesting because I think a lot of people, myself included, I mean, I went and got Deontay Johnson in fantasy. I'm sitting here thinking in that offense, he's got a chance. So it's just like, okay, is DeAndre at this point chasing a ring? Is that, and I think that's the case. I think he's chasing a ring. I think he's trying to go to the best fit where he thinks he can get a ring and he can still accumulate stats. And, if he's got anything in his contract, any incentives, I think that's going to be interesting to kind of see how that shakes out. Um, Joey Bosa, that's what they needed. We had discussed that, man. Von Miller, them parting ways, him kind of setting that tone for that defensive line. Now you got Joey Bosa coming in, and I believe it was a 1 year, yeah, 1 year, 12.6 million. So really interested to see how that shakes out long term. Of course, as we continue on this path with this podcast, man, I think it'll be interesting to kind of go back and look. Give me the other ones. I'm struggling with the other two that you brought up. Oh, Daniel Jones to the
Yeah.
Colts. Um, Interesting. All these moves have been pretty interesting, I would think. Some of them make sense for sure, but it's like, okay, the Colts at one point in time were all in on Anthony Richardson. Now they go sign Daniel Jones. Are they planning on Daniel Jones being the guy? Or is Daniel Jones a Joe Flacco situation where, and listen, man, I'm a Florida Gator fan. I mean, fault me. I mean, that's one of my faults. I'm a Florida Gator fan through and through. I like Anthony Richardson. He's a Gator. But do I think Anthony Richardson is, I think people wanted Anthony Richardson to be Josh Allen, and he is not, clearly. Like, he hasn't found his stride yet. We'll say that. Um, so yeah, that's going to be interesting to see with Daniel Jones. And then there's one more big one that I'm missing, man. I think, or did I hit them all?
You got them all.
Okay, yeah. I think majority of them I will say are good fits. They make sense. You can see the thought process behind them. You can see where these front offices are trying to go. The Seahawks definitely some work to do. And then really interested to see that QB room in Indianapolis this year coming up because they
Yeah,
got good receivers, man. They got good receivers.
man.
So,
Yeah, I'm with you on all that. Sam Darnold one. I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of a Sam Darnold believer.
hmm
I
hmm
think him kind of like honestly like Baker, him going to with Sean under not Sean but Kyle for 1 year,
hmm
Kyle Shanahan for 1 year, Baker going to Sean
hmm
McVay from 1 year. Those coaches kind of giving those guys like a voucher of approval, and then both of those guys going to a new franchise, turning around. And Sam got he got a Baker deal. It was very identical, very close in numbers and years to the Baker deal. So I like Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker the third is really their RB1. Dude just can't stay healthy. So I think he's going to a contract year, and it always seems like athletes, weirdly enough, somehow they always get healthy for a full year in a contract year. So maybe that happens for him. And Jackson Smith and Jigma was good enough that the Seahawks were willing to give up DK. So I think there's something to say about that. And I like Mike McDonald a lot.
hmm
Having faced him a couple of years with him being kind of boy genius with the Ravens, I think he's really trying to establish his own way and own kind of culture there. And he's a defensive guy. So
hmm
him adding offensive pieces, I think that tells me he wants to get younger and use some of his early picks in the draft on the defensive side and kind of like he drafts. I mean, I know he's part of getting Kyle Hamilton, who's been like all pro safety or yeah,
hmm
all pro safety for the Ravens already. So maybe he finds that guy this year in the draft. Um, Daniel Jones, like you said, I'm interested in that because like I want to see Anthony find his stride,
hmm
but I do think some guys need that push and accountability. And Shane Steichen does seem to be a good offensive coordinator, or
hmm
actually, sorry, offensive play caller and a solid head coach. Thing is, they do have the weapons in Indianapolis, and I could very much see if Anthony Richardson isn't looking good in training camp, that there's going to be a legitimate battle because you don't pay a backup 14 with incentives up to 17 to sit on the bench. Backup money is $5 to $12 million tops.
hmm
So I really think there's something to the Daniel Jones thing going to the Colts. Uh, and then DK to the Steelers. That one is I see a lot of on the internet, on TV and Twitterverse, a lot of people bagging this as a really bad deal for the Steelers. And I kind of want to hop on that train too because him and George Pickens do a lot of the same things.
hmm
And while DK is the bigger, freakier athlete, Pickens is a pretty freaky athlete himself. And I actually think Pickens has a little bit better hands than DK. But DK is like just like Pickens. I want to say in the last 3 years, like DK has been like in the top 5 to 7 in best pass blocking wide receivers, which is just always great for an offense. So now you
Yes.
tell me at a minimum, I got two big physical guys that can run blocking. If you could get a quarterback there to reward them downfield, maybe the Steelers turn it around and get a playoff out of that. The big question with them is who's going to be throwing them the rock. Uh,
Ye yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, man, I'm sitting here trying to. I had it up, man, and I'm trying to find it again. Because Najee Harris did not re-sign.
He went to the
Um,
Chargers.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So yeah. So you're sitting here and you're looking at it. A big piece, like we talked about last episode, is going to be who's going to get those guys the ball. Now, I will say where you are kind of piggybacking, it's a bad deal. I don't think so. I think it could be a good deal for them. I think it could actually work out. I think it's going to depend on who is slinging that rock for them.
Yeah,
Who's throwing that pill around and where's, I think that's gonna determine, is it a good deal, is it a bad deal, in my opinion.
because right now you hear Aaron Rodgers is the leading candidate to be in the Steelers. I'm not a Aaron Rodgers guy, but in this situation, if you're asking, do I take Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, probably the best last two free agent quarterbacks on the market, I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Hmm.
I like Russell Wilson. I actually have some buddies that play baseball with him at NC State. Um, but I really think Russell Wilson's body is starting to fail him. He's never been a hyper athletic guy. I think he's been a really good athletic guy, but I think he's 36 this year. And I think his body is starting to go in. There's a little report that his he had a dead arm at one point this year, late in the season. And that was why you start seeing a lot of short, intermediate passes and him trying to improvise and hold on to the ball too long because he wasn't able to get the ball downfield. And it's like, hey, Pittsburgh's going to be cold again, and you're going to be facing that Ravens defense. You got Myles Garrett breathing down your neck. It's like, do I want to risk Russell pulling another hamstring or getting another dead arm? When we know with Achilles, you're normally better in your second year than your first year, and we know there's absolutely nothing wrong with Aaron Rodgers' arm. And
Yeah.
I also feel like the Steelers organization and Mike Tomlin is a lot more stable situation than what the Jets were. And so you want to think Aaron's going to be on his best behavior there. And I saw a stat that Pickens, Metcalf, and Calvin Austin, all three guys who are currently on the Steelers roster, were all in the top 15 for yards per catch last year.
Damn. And so I actually, while you were sitting here talking, I just pulled up the draft order coming up. The Steelers currently sit at 21, which leads to the question of, do they get a Rodgers, and then does a Jackson Dart fall that low? You know what I'm saying? Like now you're really starting to play, because I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, Mike Tomlin, I personally think he's a good coach.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of people, a lot of Steelers fans out there that don't and are ready for the Mike Tomlin era to kind of dissipate. But I mean, the guy just he figures out a way. Like whatever hand he's dealt, he figures out a way. So it really interested to see how that front office kind of handles everything with these last two free agent quarterbacks on the market that are worth the shit in my opinion.
for sure. All right. So, kind of next segment here, we're going to go grades on off-season production so far.
Okay.
So I'm going to rip off some teams. I'm just going to go one by one. You give me
Hmm.
your grade, you give me your input, and I will follow you up on that. So the first one, off-season grade. You want to talk coaches, moves, releases, culture. Just kind of throw it all into your grade. First one, Washington Commanders.
Ooh, that's a good first one to start with. I'm actually pulling up all of their free agent signings so I can make sure I'm speaking about these Commanders correctly. I'm on the Commanders train right now, man. I am. I think it's hard not to be. I would say I would probably the grade I would probably give the Commanders is sitting around like a B plus. I don't think it's A tier. And the reason being is they have re-signed a lot of last year's team, which is good, man. That's a good team, good nucleus to keep together, good core, all that good stuff. But the Debo kind of signing, I'm like, or what are we thinking there? As well as they re-signed Zach Ertz, had a great year, re-signed Tress Way. Bobby Wagner re-signed. They got Javion Kinlaw to a 3-year, 45 million deal with 30 million guaranteed. Yeah, I think B plus. I'm confident in that B plus. I think that they're going to be at the top of the division again, without a doubt. Um, but that Debo trade, I'm not really sure. Also, I just forgot this name and he just popped up is Laramie Tunzel. And then of course Micah Parsons had something to say about that. But yeah, that's a great sign, man. I think B plus for the Commanders for sure. What you got on them?
Man, I got the same grade, B plus.
Yeah.
I think we'll see how they do through the draft.
Hmm.
I think based on how if they can nail two drafts, when you find your franchise quarterback, none of the other six picks really matter. You nailed that draft. So if they can nail a draft, find, another couple starters and then a couple backstop guys in the draft, that their grade can definitely move up to an A.
Yeah.
And that team is quickly, I mean, they were in NFC Championship game last year, so that team is quickly solidifying themselves as a potential NFC power, as especially as long as Jaden is on that rookie contract, which he's got at minimum 2 more years. And depending on how that goes, they should be smart and just go ahead and pay him early, and before he gets to that fourth year, and maybe they save some money, or save some room in the cap space from there. Um,
Hmm.
I like the Laramie Tussle deal. Again, I think he's a guy that was maybe getting a little bit too comfortable in Houston, and a new place to play at will be good for him. Um, and I think the Debo thing will work out at least for 1 year. I think Debo will be
Okay.
motivated. I think he'll be a little bit better shape, and he'll figure it out from there. All right.
Yeah.
Next one, New England Patriots. This one might hit home for you.
Yeah, no. So, man, yeah, and we can dive into my dumbness as a child, not rooting for the Patriots because I didn't realize what greatness was when Tom Brady was there, and he won too much. Just like I didn't like the Yankees because they won too much. Man, the Patriots are interesting. I like the Vrabel sign as the coach. He knows what that culture is supposed to look like. He knows how. I think he knows how to win. I don't think he had really good. I liked him in Tennessee, man. I don't know why people were so against him in Tennessee. I don't think he walked into a great situation in Tennessee, but all be that, man, I think he's going to be a good fit for them. As far as some of their, early free agent kind of moves, I'm liking what they're trying to do to the defense and solidify that. They did sign Matt Collins, which that guy's an interesting character, man. I don't know if you've seen the stories on him,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's an interesting dude, and I'm all about it. So yeah, really cool with the Patriots. I'd probably give them like a B minus, maybe a C plus, and a lot of that has to do. I'll go C plus. I'm interested to see the draft, but a big reason for that C plus is Mike Vrabel, 100%.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna get. Funny enough, I got C plus written down too. I wrote down all my grades, so I'm not stealing your grades. But again, I'm like you. I'm a big Mike Vrabel guy. I like what I saw from. I actually watched a lot of Patriot games last year. I like what I saw out of Drake May.
Hmm.
Um, my only concern is they're not. Mike's fingerprints are obviously on this free agent because they're doing a lot of defense. So
Hmm.
you hope, and they have a great pick. So you hope, and they're not going after a wide receiver. So if I had to
Hmm.
put money down, $100 right now, I'd say they're using that number one pick to go with a wide receiver in the draft this year. And there's some good ones because you got to give Drake somebody good to throw to, and grow him.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with a C plus two. All right,
All
let's
right.
let's go with the Chicago Bears.
Ooh, this one, we've had many debates about this one, and we have had many talks about this one. I think Ben Johnson going there could be good for Caleb Williams. And we had this conversation early on. I'm not sold on Caleb Williams, man. I wasn't in college. I don't know why. I just and I don't think he's there. I don't think it's gonna work out with him. I think we're gonna look back on this 3 years from now. They got a new quarterback. My personal opinion, my hot take of the evening. Ben Johnson, I like it. I think that they're going to be better than what they were last year. I'd probably just give them a straight up C with what they're doing right now in free agency. But I think a real big reason, they've solidified their offensive line a little bit, but I mean, we know, man, you got to be healthy, and injuries play a huge role into that. And so I think a C is a solid grade for the Bears, and I think a lot of that has to do with just previous his or most recent history where they've been at, and then they get Ben Johnson. I think it can be good. I'm not sold. I can't buy the stock. That's just me.
Yeah. Um, they did the one thing that they needed to do for sure, which was protect Taylor.
Yes.
So, and when you bring in a new coach, like the hottest offensive coach for the last 3 years, even without giving their grade, they did the one thing that they absolutely had to do. And but I don't think any of this pressure is going to be on the GM Ryan Poles next year or on Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's kind of proven himself. I think all the pressure goes right back on Caleb, and it's like you got O line on paper, you got a offensive play caller, the best one in recent memory, and so now this is really going to be on you to take a big step forward in your sophomore year.
Hmm.
At minimum, they need to be in the playoff hunt going into the last 2, 3 games of the season. They could really help their case by getting in on the wild card or even winning division outright. Because their division, I still think is going to be very up to grabs next year. Because Jordan Love, I wanted to be in love with Jordan Love, but he didn't take that big step forward as I thought he was going to. And the Detroit, I feel like while a lot of their pieces last year, you rarely see a team after two big heartbreaks in the playoffs and losing both of your coordinators who turned to be head coaches. That's going to be a lot to come back from. Um, and so the pressure's going to be on Caleb. I probably give them just a straight up C,
Hmm.
and they have to draft. The thing is, they've given up a lot of draft, like mid and late round draft picks this year for the free agents. So it's like you got to nail the draft. You got to get some undrafted free agents going if you're going to have an impact this season.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I think we're on the same page with that for sure. Who you got next on the docket for me?
I'll give you a choice because we got time for
All
one
right.
more.
All
So
right.
Jets, Chiefs, Houston, Cowboys.
Think we can save the Jets, Chiefs. We're definitely going to cover with the in-home bias here.
Yeah.
Texans, nah. Let's go for that. Let's go for that. Let's go for the Cowboys.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Cowboys here for a second. Um, the off-season grade I'm going to give them so far is probably a D. You hired in-house. You didn't try to go and shop around. You just said, "Here you go, bud. Here's the keys to the kingdom." It doesn't make sense. Now, if you said, "Here you go, bud. Here's the keys to the kingdom," and you're in the divisional championship the last 3 years, okay, we might be having a different conversation right now. But we're talking about how late they waited to pay CD and Dak last year. We're talking about they're going to have to pay Micah Parsons in a year that Miles Garrett and Max Crosby just got deals. We're talking about, I mean, I'm looking at their signs. I mean, Javante Williams, 1 year, 3 million. I mean, that's not your guy. I think Rico Dowdle is their guy. I really do. I think he
Yeah.
solidified the RB1 spot. They got Robert Jones. They got some edge guys, some D linemen, some guys on some guys in the back or in the secondary. But in typical Jerry Jones fashion, we're going to make sure that we sign the long snapper and a kick returner. Like what? Like what? Like you can't tell me that you can't go find a long snapper or a kick returner in the draft. Like what are so I give him a D, man. I don't know what's going on over there. I feel like Jerry has to kind of take a step back. I would love to hear from some of our Cowboys faithful that we know, some of our boys, and I would love to get their kind of grade and see what frame of mind they're in. Might need to make sure that, we talk them off the ledge and keep them, sane. But yeah, man, for me, it's a D. I can't make sense of it. Being a coach and doing it and constructing rosters and everything. I'm kind of baffled, man. What you got?
Yeah, man. Like it's not looking. If I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm probably not waking up optimistic these last and 2025 in general.
Mhm.
Things don't look bleak. I mean, it's still Dak. He hopefully comes back healthy. You still got CD, and I'll say this: I wouldn't be surprised if with this delay, I know it's kind of Jerry Jones fashion delay. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Parsons is on the trading block on draft day, and because that's probably the best time to actually shop him around. So that's kind of my take on that. I probably give him a D plus at this point because if they can trade Mike and get a lot of picks and a lot of value back and save cap room, that automatically moves them to a C.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they do draft well, and they do a really good job of maintaining their guys. So
Hmm.
keep drafting well and keep those picks. But man, this
Yeah.
is fun. I want to close it out.